It seems like every single day there's a new headline about some crazy security threat or some huge vulnerability, and it's kind of overwhelming, right?
It really is, and the numbers are kind of mind-boggling when you think about it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, we've seen this jump from something like 4,000 attacks per second to, like, 7,000,
Yeah.
which, if you do the math, that's like 600 million every day.
It's hard to even wrap your head around those numbers.
And, traditional security tools are really struggling to kind of keep pace
Right.
with this volume and the speed of these threats. It's too much for humans to manage.
So where does that leave us? I mean, are we just doomed to be constantly playing catch up?
Well, not necessarily. I think that's where the real power of AI starts to come in. Because
Okay.
AI and machine learning can help us process and understand this huge amount of data that's coming at us
Right.
in a way that humans just can't.
So that's what we're diving into today. We're going to explore how AI is being used to tackle this challenge. Specifically, we're going to look at this concept of agentic AI in security. Drawing from some recent announcements and articles we've seen about some interesting new security products.
Yeah, we've been really digging into these articles and news items about AI-powered security automation
Mm,
and trying to understand what they really mean for like the future of security, how we're going to keep up with this evolving threat landscape.
right. And we want to make sure that we explain all of this in a way that makes sense, without getting too bogged down in all the technical jargon. So over the course of this deep dive, we'll try to answer some key questions like what exactly are these agents designed to do? How do they actually work? How
Right.
do they integrate with our existing security tools? And what are some of the early results and considerations for using them?
Yeah, great questions.
So let's start by unpacking this whole idea of security copilot agents.
So Security Copilot itself isn't totally brand new. You might remember that we saw its first release, like back in 2023.
Oh,
And at the time, it was mainly focused on automating security incident triage in Microsoft Defender XDR.
for folks who aren't super familiar, what is Microsoft Defender XDR?
Oh yeah, good point. It's basically a comprehensive set of security tools from Microsoft, covering things like endpoints, identities, email, applications.
Right.
So it's a pretty broad security platform.
Makes sense. And it seems like that initial concept from 2023 has really taken off, right?
Yeah, it has.
Because now we're seeing this expansion to, I think they said 11 task-specific AI agents.
That's right.
That's a huge increase.
Yeah, 11 agents, and these agents are designed to interact with a whole bunch of different Microsoft security products.
That's pretty impressive.
But what's interesting, though, is that the definition of what actually makes an agent is still a little bit fuzzy.
What do you mean?
Well, we came across this anecdote, somebody asked like point blank, what is an agent? And the answer they got back was, that's a great question.
Hmm. That's not very helpful, is it?
Not really. And it kind of highlights that this is still such a new area and the terminology is still evolving.
Right.
So maybe the industry itself is still trying to figure out exactly what these AI entities are.
It's almost like we're all talking about it, but we're not entirely sure what we're talking about.
Yeah, kind of. But we do have some concrete examples of these 11 agents, at least.
Okay, good. So let's talk about those.
Okay, so out of these 11 agents, 5 of them were actually developed by Microsoft itself.
Okay.
And they each have their own very specific function. So first up, we've got the phishing triage agent. And this one lives within Microsoft Defender. And it's designed to sort through all of those phishing reports that come in.
I can imagine that would be a huge help.
Oh, yeah, because, employees, they see a suspicious email and they report it, which is good.
Right.
It can create a lot of noise for security teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this agent can help automate that initial screening process.
What else do we have?
Okay, then there are the alert triage agents. And these ones are part of Microsoft Purview.
Microsoft Purview, that's their data governance and compliance platform, right?
Right, exactly. So these agents are all about helping manage the alerts that are generated by things like data loss prevention policies and insider risk monitoring.
Okay, so they're dealing with potential data leaks and risky insider behavior. That makes sense. What about the other Microsoft agents?
So the next one is the conditional access optimization agent. And this one is within Microsoft Entra, which is their identity and access management solution.
Right, so this agent is focused on managing access control and permissions.
Yeah, exactly. It monitors and tries to prevent issues related to conditional access policies like who can access what data and under what circumstances.
Okay, so keeping the bad guys out.
Exactly. Then we've got the vulnerability remediation agent, which lives in Microsoft Intune. Intune is their endpoint management tool, And this agent helps prioritize all of the vulnerabilities that need to be patched.
It seems like every time I turn around, there's another software vulnerability that I need to patch.
It's never ending.
So I could definitely see how this agent would be helpful.
Yeah, it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it.
So what's the last one from Microsoft?
The last one is the Threat Intelligence Briefing Agent, and this one is part of Security Copilot itself, and it gives security analysts a curated summary of all the latest threat intelligence.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So they don't have to spend hours sifting through threat reports and intelligence feeds.
Exactly. It's all right there, summarized and prioritized for them.
So those are the 5 from Microsoft, but there are 6 more, right?
Right.
And these ones are from their security partners.
Exactly. So we've got a really interesting one here. It's the Privacy Breach Response Agent. And this one is from OneTrust.
OneTrust, they're all about privacy and compliance, right?
That's right.
So what does this agent do?
Well, it's pretty cool. It basically takes all of the information about a data breach and it distills it down into a clear report, guidance on how to handle it. And the really helpful thing is that it takes into account all the different privacy regulations across different states and countries.
Oh, wow. So it could actually tell you, who you need to notify and what you need to disclose based on where the breach happened.
Exactly. And that's huge, right? Because privacy regulations are a mess.
Oh, yeah, it's a minefield.
So this agent could really save companies a lot of time and headaches.
I bet. What about the others?
Okay, so we've also got the Network Supervisor Agent from Aviatrix. They're a cloud networking company, and their agent helps with root cause analysis for network issues.
Network issues are always a pain to troubleshoot.
Oh, tell me about it.
So I could see how that would be really valuable. What else?
There's the CCOPS Tooling Agent from BlueVoyant, a cybersecurity company. And this one helps you assess how well your security operations center's tools and controls are working.
Oh, so it's like a security checkup for your security team.
Basically, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, what else?
We've got another alert triage agent, but this one's from Titanium, an endpoint management company.
Ah, so it's specifically designed to work with their platform.
Right.
It seems like alert fatigue is a huge problem these days.
Oh, yeah, it's a big one. Security teams are just bombarded with alerts all the time.
Yeah.
And it's hard to know which ones are really important.
Right.
So this agent can help with that.
Okay, so that's 10. What's the 11th one?
The 11th one is the Task Optimizer Agent, and it's from Fletch, a security automation company.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is interesting. It tries to predict and prioritize potential threats so you can be proactive and hopefully stop them before they happen.
That's kind of like a security crystal ball.
Kind of, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And then we have the 11th agent.
Oh, there are 12.
Oh, no, sorry, I just lost track there for a second. I meant that this last one is within Microsoft Purview Data Security Investigations, and it helps teams deal with data exposure risks. So yeah, 11 agents in total.
Wow. So 11 agents, all designed to help security teams automate different tasks and make their lives a little bit easier. So how do these agents actually work, like under the hood?
Well, the key technology here is natural language processing, or NLP for short.
NLP, I've heard that term thrown around a lot lately. Oh. What is it exactly?
Basically, it's AI that can understand and process human language, like the way we talk and write.
Okay.
So these agents use NLP to read and understand huge amounts of security data, like phishing emails, threat alerts, security logs, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then they summarize all of that information into a format that a human can easily understand.
So they're like security analysts, but they're AI.
In a way.
Okay, so the AI is doing all the heavy lifting of reading and analyzing all this data. What does that free up the human security analysts to do?
Well, it means they can focus on the stuff that really requires human judgment. Like the most critical alerts or the most complex threats, things that an AI can't handle on its own yet.
Right, because if we think back to those staggering numbers we talked about at the beginning, with thousands of attacks happening every second, there's just no way human teams can keep up with all of that manually.
Yeah, it would be impossible.
Bah.
So the goal here is to let the AI handle the low-level stuff, the routine tasks, so that the humans can focus on the big picture and the stuff that really matters.
So it's all about augmenting human capabilities, not replacing humans altogether.
Exactly.
So have we seen any results yet?
Oh, yeah, we have. Even before all of these specialized agents were released, the early deployments of Security Copilot were showing some pretty impressive results.
Like what?
Well, one stat we saw was a 30% reduction in the average time it takes to respond to security incidents.
30%?
Yeah, and in security, every minute counts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So that kind of speed improvement could be the difference between containing a breach quickly or having it turn into a major disaster.
Huge difference. What else did we see?
We also saw some interesting stats about the accuracy of security professionals when they're using Security Copilot.
Oh, okay.
So early career security professionals, the ones who are still learning the ropes, they were reportedly 26% faster and 35% more accurate when they were using the tool.
Wow, that's incredible.
And even seasoned professionals, the ones who are already experts, they saw a 22% increase in speed and a 7% improvement in accuracy.
That's pretty impressive for people who are already at the top of their game.
Yeah, it really shows that this tool can be a valuable asset for security teams of all skill levels.
But I'm guessing all this automation and efficiency doesn't come cheap, right?
Well, that's a good point. The information we have doesn't really go into the costs associated with implement and using these technologies.
So it's still a bit of a black box in terms of the return on investment.
Yeah, but I think it's safe to assume that there are costs involved.
Of course, that makes sense. But hey, if it can save you from a major security breach, maybe it's worth it.
Right, exactly.
Now, whenever we talk about AI, especially in security, there's always this current of safety and reliability, right?
Absolutely.
How do we know these AI systems aren't going to make mistakes or do something crazy? We've all heard those stories about AI hallucinations.
Yeah, those are valid concerns.
So what are the companies doing to address these concerns?
Well, we heard from the director in AI Safety and Security, Red Tina at Microsoft, and they emphasized their commitment to building secure and reliable systems. They talked about how they're developing the underlying AI models with built-in safeguards, and they're actively working to mitigate risks like prompt injection.
Cross-prompt injection, refresh my memory on that one.
Basically, it's where someone tries to trick the AI into doing something it shouldn't by injecting malicious input, kind of like giving it bad instructions.
Right, so it's like hacking the AI. That's pretty scary.
It is, but Microsoft is aware of these risks, and they're taking steps to prevent them.
But how do we know they're actually working?
Well, they have these internal red teams who are constantly testing the systems and trying to find vulnerabilities, including looking for hallucinations. So it's a very proactive approach to security.
But I'm guessing they don't want to share all of their secret sauce with the world, right?
Well, that's the thing. When we dug into things like false positive rates and other performance metrics, we didn't get a lot of specifics. They said that information was sensitive and couldn't be shared.
I guess that's understandable from a business perspective, but it would be nice to have a little more transparency, wouldn't it?
It would.
Okay, so let's get a little more specific here. Let's talk about one of these agents in more detail.
Okay.
How about the phishing triage agent in Microsoft Defender?
Yeah, that's a good one.
What problem is that agent designed to solve?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, employee-reported phishing emails are a huge problem for security teams. Even with all the automated phishing detection tools out there, employees are still going to see suspicious emails and report them, and a lot of those reports are going to be false positives.
Like, how many are we talking about here?
Well, the numbers we saw suggested that around 95% of reported phishing emails turn out to be legitimate.
95%. That's a lot of wasted time for security analysts.
Oh, yeah. It's estimated that each false positive can take about 30 minutes to investigate and dismiss.
Wow, that adds up quickly.
So that's where the phishing triage agent comes in. It analyzes these emails and looks for various clues to determine whether they're actually phishing or not. Things like the language used, suspicious links, the sender's information, all those little red flags.
It's like having an extra set of eyes, but these eyes are powered by AI.
Exactly. But these AI systems aren't perfect.
Of course not.
There was this interesting story about a legitimate email from HR that got flagged as phishing. Yeah, it was a company-wide email, but the agent thought it was suspicious because of the language used. Maybe it was a little too urgent or something.
I guess the AI didn't have the full context, did it?
Right. The product architect actually said, the agent can't know that because it lacks my context.
That's a good point. The AI doesn't understand the nuances of human communication or the internal workings of a company.
Yeah, so there's still a need for human oversight and judgment.
Definitely. So what happens when the AI makes a mistake like that? Can it learn from its mistakes?
Yeah, it can. So in that example with the HR email, the user could manually reclassify it as legitimate.
Okay.
And that feedback then helps to train the agent and make it more accurate in the future.
That's cool. So it's constantly learning and improving.
But there's an important caveat here.
What's that?
The agent's learning is personalized to that specific user and their environment.
What do you mean?
So let's say you work at company A and I work at company B. The agent will learn differently based on the emails that we each feed it. It's not like all of the agents are sharing their learning with each other or retraining the main AI model.
Oh, I see. So each agent is kind of its own little island of learning.
Exactly.
Oh.
And that's good for privacy and security, right?
Huh.
Because you don't want your company's data being used to train an agent for another company.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it does mean that there's less data available to measure the overall effectiveness of these agents.
You're saying we don't have a lot of hard data on things like the actual labor cost savings or the false positive rates after training?
Right, we're still kind of early in the adoption cycle, so those metrics are still being collected and analyzed.
So it's a bit of a wait and see situation.
Yeah, for now.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about another one of these agents.
Okay.
How about the privacy breach response agent from OneTrust? You know, the one that helps with all the complicated privacy regulations.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What are some of the big challenges that that agent is trying to solve?
So when a company has a data breach, they have to notify all the affected individuals and sometimes government agencies.
Right.
But the rules about who to notify and what to disclose are different everywhere.
Oh, yeah, it's a nightmare. It's like every state and every country has its own set of laws.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it can be incredibly complicated and confusing, especially when you're dealing with a data breach and you're under a lot of pressure.
I can imagine you're trying to contain the breach, figure out what happened, and then on top of that, you have to navigate this legal maze of privacy regulations.
Right, and you have to do it quickly. Some regulations have very strict deadlines for notification.
So what does this privacy breach response agent actually do?
Well, it acts as a kind of AI legal assistant. So it takes the information about the data breach, what happened, how many people were affected, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then it compares that information to its database of global privacy regulations.
So it's like a giant legal encyclopedia, but for privacy laws.
Exactly. And then it spits out a list of recommendations
Mm.
telling you who you need to notify, what you need to tell them, and when you need to do it.
So it's not actually filling out the forms and sending the notifications for you, but it's giving you all the information you need to do it correctly.
Right. It's doing all the research and analysis so you don't have to.
That's a huge help. But what about hallucinations?
That's a valid concern, right?
Yeah, what if it gives you bad legal advice?
Well, they've taken steps to address that.
Like what?
So first of all, the agent is drawing its information from a very structured and reliable database of regulations, so the chances of it hallucinating are pretty low.
Okay, that's good.
And secondly, it provides an audit log with links back to the specific regulations that it's using to make its recommendations.
So you can double check its work.
Exactly.
That's a great feature. I mean, you definitely don't want to rely blindly on an AI when it comes to legal compliance. All right, before we move on to our final thoughts, let's take a quick break.
Stonefly is a true trailblazer in storage, backup, disaster recovery, cloud, AI, and security. They provide some truly advanced data services, including immutable snapshots, which are like tamper-proof records of your data at a specific point in time. Plus, they offer robust AES 256 encryption, protecting your data both at rest and during transmission. And they also have efficient synchronous and asynchronous replication to ensure your data is always safe, no matter what happens. And then there's intelligent data tiering, smart flash cache, and specialized ransomware volume protection, all working together to keep your data both secure and readily available. But wait, there's more. Stonefly's patented immutable and air-gapped repository technology provides an extra layer of protection against ransomware and other threats. And it doesn't stop there. They offer comprehensive control and node management, enabling you to manage anywhere from a single node to a sprawling 128 nodes across multiple geographic locations, all from a single pane of glass user interface.
Stonefly is seriously raising the bar in data protection.
They are. And for a limited time, they're offering two fantastic deals. You can get their $10 immutable and air-gapped backup solution, which gives you peace of mind knowing your data is safe. Or, for a limited time, you can get their high-performance 70-terabyte backup and disaster recovery appliance, which is expandable up to a whopping 4 petabytes. This powerful appliance offers air-gapped and immutable support for industry leaders like Veeam, Rubrik, Commvault, and Site Recovery, along with advanced AI capabilities and object lockdown technology specifically designed for ransomware protection. All of this for an incredible price of just $7,995. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to enhance your data protection strategy. Contact Stonefly today.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. You know, we've talked about all these different AI agents, how they work, what problems they're trying to solve.
We have.
So as we wrap up, what are some of the key takeaways that our listeners should keep in mind?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that AI is playing an increasingly important role in security.
Absolutely.
And these specialized AI agents are a great example of that.
Right. They're automating a lot of the tasks that used to be really time-consuming and tedious for security analysts, freeing them up to focus on more strategic work.
Exactly. And the early results are really promising.
We've seen improvements in incident response times, accuracy, and even a reduction in alert fatigue.
That's right.
But it's important to remember that we're still in the early days of this technology.
Yeah, we
There's
are.
still a lot that we're learning about how to use AI effectively and safely in security.
Yeah, for example, we still need to figure out how to deal with those AI hallucinations.
Right.
And we need to make sure that we have strong human oversight of these systems.
Absolutely. AI is a powerful tool, but it's not a magic bullet.
Right.
So for our listeners who are trying to make sense of all this, what's the one big idea they should take away from this deep dive?
I think the big idea is that AI agents are here to stay, and they have the potential to revolutionize the way we approach security.
Okay, so what does that mean for the future of security professionals? I mean, are we all going to be replaced by robots?
No, not at all. I think it's more about a shift in focus.
What do you mean?
Well, instead of spending all their time on those low-level repetitive tasks, security professionals will be able to focus on the things that really require human judgment and creativity, like threat hunting, strategic planning, and incident response.
So it's like we're leveling up.
Exactly. We're becoming more strategic, more proactive, and more effective overall.
That's a pretty exciting prospect.
It is.
But it also raises a lot of interesting questions, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. For example, how will the role of the security analyst evolve? Will they become more like AI trainers or overseers?
Right, and how do we ensure that these AI systems are used ethically and responsibly?
And how do we balance the power of automation with the need for human oversight and accountability?
It's a whole new world out there.
It is.
And it's clear that AI is going to play a huge role in shaping the future of security. It makes you wonder if we're going to see this kind of AI augmentation in other fields as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about all the industries that are dealing with massive amounts of data.
Healthcare, finance, education, government.
Exactly. AI has the potential to transform all of them.
And it's not just about automation. It's about augmenting human capabilities and allowing us to do things that we never could have done before.
It really is a fascinating time to be alive.
It is, and it's clear that the relationship between human intelligence and artificial intelligence is only going to get more complex and more important in the years to come. So thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
My pleasure.